WDL BEZ CENZURY je podcast o hodinkách a pozadí hodinárskeho biznisu. Okrem YouTube sme aj na platformách Spotify a Apple Podcast. Najčerstvejšie novinky zo sveta Watch Deluxe môžete sledovať na našom Instagrame alebo Facebooku. Ponuku luxusných švajčiarskych hodinárskych značiek nájdete na našich predaniach Watch Deluxe alebo na e-shope wdl.sk. Ponúkame vám profesionálny servis a objednaný tovar odosielame každý pracovný deň. Prajeme vám príjemné počúvanie.
The test is not so easy. I can tell you, just 5% of all produced watches in Switzerland are chronometer certified. Just 5%.
And how many pieces are producing in Switzerland? What is per year?
25 million.
25 million.
Yeah.
And only 5% from this amount is certificate by COSC.
Yes. And if you count which brand is able to produce with the in-house movement, a rattrapant, perpetual calendar or tourbillon, then you find out there are not so many brands are able to have this or to produce this function in a mechanical watch. It's a complete contrast to the Navitana.
Absolutely.
It's reduced.
Yep.
It's a simple looking case. It's not simple, but it's reduced case with the design from the 60s.
Vítajte pri ďalšom videu od spoločnosti Watch Deluxe, pri našom ďalšom videocaste WDL BEZ CENZURY a som veľmi rád, že moje pozvanie prijal Thomas Hanauer zo spoločnosti Breitling Viedeň, Breitling Austria, ktorý je aktuálne tréner, ktorý pôsobí na pozícii trénera predaja hodín Breitling a tento videokast bude v angličtine a my ho samozrejme pre vás potom nahovoríme do slovenčiny. Thomas, welcome. I would like to introduce you to our customer. You can say some words about you, who you are, and why you are working right now for Breitling. We can start like this.
Okay. First of all, I'm happy to be here. It's our first interview. We know each other more than 15 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a very long negotiation history,
yeah.
Breitling and Watch Deluxe.
Yeah.
But also we have a kind of friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
So back to my history. I'm in the watch business because, it's a part of my life. It's part of my history. My mother was a watchmaker. My father was a watchmaker, both grandfathers. So I'm
in Vienna.
In Vienna. I'm deep in the watch business. I'm learned watchmaker also, but I find out after many years, I'm too nervous to repair watches.
Okay.
So
your hands are shaking.
Yes, I'm always looking around and not on the table, on the movement.
Okay.
But watches in general is my life, and to work more than 20 years with Breitling, it was really every year was a new challenge. I have different positions in the brand, and it's always a challenging and an adventure to work with Breitling because especially in the last 5 to 6 years, Breitling changed a lot. And this was very motivated.
Before we go further, we can say that you are able to bring the customer into the deep of watchmaking or
yes.
Breitling.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
We will not talk about the Breitling in general because we have a couple of interview about the Breitling.
Mm-hmm.
We also will have very interesting interview about the Breitling as a general, about the history and stuff like this. Together we will talk mostly about the movements, about the certification and stuff like this. But can you say some interesting information because we are responsible for Austria market. You are also responsible for Eastern Europe market.
Yes.
And you are trainer.
Yes. So we are located in Vienna. The company is Breitling Austria, and we are responsible for 26 formal Eastern Europe countries. To be honest, I like this word not so much because Eastern Europe, it sounds not so nice, but it's a part of the history.
You travel a lot?
Travel a lot. We have a huge area, very interesting with the different religions, with different mentalities, with different countries. It's every day, every year, a new challenging, especially at this time, which is quite complicated.
And could you mention a couple of words about how you started with Breitling? What's the story behind or how it began your journey in this company?
It's quite simple. Breitling hired me and I start in sales. 5 years I have made sales for Austria. Then I find out Austria is too small for me. I have to improve. I have to enlarge my area. And then step by step, I jump in another position. The position is take care of the after-sales service in those countries and make in those countries sales trainings for our business partners like Watch Deluxe.
Could you tell me that you are more than 20 years with Breitling?
Yeah.
And for this period, we have the Breitling has changed. Could you mention how you feel that the Breitling changed?
Yeah.
Until today?
Yes, to be honest, it was every year, a nice time with Breitling. But we have to know that Breitling in the past was focused just on aviation.
Yep.
And all products in the collection was an aviation watch.
Yeah.
Even a super ocean, which sounds different.
Yeah.
And from my point of view, the biggest change to Breitling, I would say Breitling 2.0, is that we divide the collection in air, sea, land. To understand air, it's our DNA. It goes back to the 30s. Aviation is one part of the DNA of Breitling.
One part
the DNA. Then we have sea with our water sport activity watches, and then we have land with our elegant watches, with our custom-sized watches like this.
New top 10.
Smaller size and not these big aviation watches.
Yep. And can you divide it so the old Breitling customer versus new one? Someone says that this is not the real Breitling. This is something absolutely new and they don't understand.
Yeah.
Could you explain?
Yes. You have to understand that Breitling in the area before, from, I would say, from the 80s to 2016 or 17, they produce watches in the right lifestyle, but under this period, they forgot the true history. And the true history is that Breitling was all the time back to Willy Breitling. So you see, Willy Breitling was very important.
Last part of Breitling
the last
family.
Breitling. He was very active. And for example, we launched yesterday a new product with bicycle racing. And Breitling was in the 50s sponsor of the Tour de France, Giro Italia.
I didn't know that. I was reading on Instagram, really? Breitling was a sponsor of Tour de France?
So it shows that Breitling was always like this, not only aviation.
Yes.
So we go back to the true history, and we find out in our history that Breitling was not only focused on aviation all the time. And this period, the last 20-25 years, was on focus on Breitling, and the customer understand the message. But the true history give us also an option to acting in air, sea, land.
Yeah. So back to the roots.
Yes, exactly. I would say the biggest change is we are not only focused on aviation. We are more a lifestyle product. We are modern retro with the historical touch.
We have some kind of DNA, and Breitling on the beginning of 20th century started with chronos.
Yes.
They take the pocket watch and add the single push button.
Yes. Yes, as I go back in the history, the chronograph were always our main part.
Yeah.
I go back to Gaston Breitling. He created the first pocket watch with the chronograph where you can measure the speed of cars. And you know who was the first customer? The Swiss police, because they can give you a ticket for high speeding.
Okay. So he has a pocket watch with the tachymeters.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This was founded by Gaston Breitling. Yeah.
By Gaston Breitling.
Yes.
Okay. And there was a single button for start, stop, and reset.
Yes. Yes.
And how long it takes from one single button to add another button for stop and reset?
10 years. And then additional 8 years for the white start, stop, and return. And then additional 20 years to the configuration what we have right now. Willy Breitling created the function start, stop, return was founded by Willy Breitling.
Really?
I would say 99% of all the watch brands use this function.
Because of Willy Breitling.
Yes. It was founded by Willy Breitling. Start, stop, return.
And this is something crazy if you realize how long it takes from monopusher, if we can say monopusher, to the layout, what do we have today? Sometimes I realize that people say the watches of today, it's a normal, you have one button, a second button, you have a crown, but it was developed 40, 50 years. Sometimes I'm really curious how this thing evolved, it's crazy. And this thing, why I start with chrono, brings me to another topic, because Breitling, during the long period of when it was acting in watch business, they don't have their own movement.
Yes. We started in 2008, finally in 2009, to launch our new 01 chronograph movement, our in-house movement.
And it was a B01. We are using 01. Okay.
First of all, it was a big step for the future of Breitling in this time. A new movement, it's a huge investment, as it's not easy to create a new movement, to produce your own movement. It takes 5 years.
To develop
5 years.
Why it takes so long?
It's clear. First of all, you have a white paper.
Okay.
You start from scratch, from zero. And you have to think about what you want with the movement.
Okay, but you have another option. You can ask someone who is making a movement to make for you the movement.
Yes, for sure. You invite, you employ the best technician guys what you can get. But again, if you start from the white paper, it takes a very long time, because you have to think about not to build just a chronograph. You have to build a chronograph for the future, so you are able to implement a rattrapant.
Okay.
You have to implement a calendar, for example. This you have to create from the beginning on the main plate.
Okay.
So you have to think about, okay, I create a new movement, but I want to add something additional, high-end luxury watch business, horology functions to implement inside. Integrated in the chronograph. It's easy to put a module with this function on. That's easy. You have a simple movement, you put the module on, and then you have some additional functions. It's more complicated to create it from the beginning on in the movement.
In the movement.
With the point, it's not so high.
Yeah.
If you put the module on, it's always a big movement. And
we don't like a thick watch.
No. And it takes 5 years, for sure.
And you also need to start thinking about the movement of 21st century, because everyone's on 3 days power reserve. Everyone's, anti-magnetism movement. You need to have this idea and things in your mind when you are developing new movement.
Exactly. So it's like all the time Swiss watch industry, it's always in long term. So if to think about to create a new movement, you have to think about what you want to do in the future, which way want to go with your brand, with the movement in the future. The future means, the B01 movement, it's done. The basic is done. And finally, last year we launched our perpetual calendar. We have already a rattrapant. We have a hand-winding movement. So this shows that Breitling is also in the horology already.
And you want to say that this perpetual calendar, this Navitime, is built on 01?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So, but the perpetual complication is not from Breitling.
It's from Breitling. Everything in-house made by Breitling.
So these watches are all made by Breitling?
Yes.
This perpetual calendar?
Yes.
It's crazy. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So this is on the base 01 movement.
Yes.
It's crazy. Okay, but before we talk...
Yeah, before we talk about this, we can talk about this.
Yes, but these watches are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. This ice blue color, and if I know that this movement is in-house, but tell me, there is a difference between manufacturer movement and in-house movement. This is in-house movement because you have a Breitling chronometry.
Yes.
And everything you produce in Breitling chronometry.
Yes.
Almost.
There's in-house manufacture. Both it's made by Breitling in La Chaux-de-Fonds in our chronometry, as you told, in the chronometry in La Chaux-de-Fonds. We produce this movement. But there are some additional features, but we talk about later.
Yes, okay. And in terms of we are speaking about the in-house movement for Breitling, we can say that all production of Breitling watches are certificate, but independent company, COSC.
Yes.
Could you explain what does it mean?
Yeah, first of all, there's a difference between a chronograph and a chronometer.
Yeah.
A chronograph is a function where you can measure time, blah, blah, blah. A chronometer is a certification. I give an idea. If you want to be a doctor is a title, but you have to study before.
Yeah.
Chronometer is a title when you pass this complicated test. And the COSC, the Chronométrie Officielle, it's an independent company in Switzerland where all the Swiss watch brands are able to bring the movements there to test the movement. The test is not so easy. I can tell you just 5% of all produced watches in Switzerland are chronometer certified. Just 5%.
And how many pieces are producing in Switzerland? Watches per year?
25 million.
25 million.
Yeah.
And only 5% from this amount is certificated by COSC.
Yes. So this certification is really high level. I give you just some figures to understand how it works. First of all the brands have to deliver the movements in a transparent plastic box with a standard crown and with a white dial on and a black second hand.
Okay.
So the COSC certification, it's an independent company. They don't care about the brand.
It doesn't matter if Omega or another brand. They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't care about.
Okay.
Just the result after the test is the main target. And the test is 15 days. It's not 1 of 10, 1 of 100 or 1 of 1,000. Each single movement is tested by the COSC by Breitling. So the test takes 15 days. We have to wind the watches every day with the machine. That's why we have these plastic boxes. The COSC test the movements in different positions.
Yeah.
Because the different position influence also the precision of the movement. And with 3 different temperatures, 8 degrees, 23 degrees, and 38 degrees. So you feel now this test is very complicated, takes long time. It's not so easy because when it's easy, everybody will do it. And for sure, it costs money. Yeah. But what is the benefit, end of the day, for the customer? Why we do this chronometer certification? It's the customer can be sure it's tested with the certification from this independent company. So he has the official document and he can be sure that this movement works more precise, tested more precise than a not certified watch.
And if happens something that the watches are not accurate as the certificate says, what is the accuracy of?
Maximum minus 4 seconds a day, or in another direction, maximum plus 6 seconds per day.
And if customer, if don't have accuracy in these points, he is able to send the watches to...
No, but you have to understand, to be honest, it's a test in like a labor. It's not a field test.
Yeah.
So we test just only the movement. It's always how you act with your watch. So, for example, if you have a sunny day today and you play golf and you make 200 times golf and then you go swimming and later on you make some work at home, this is not the condition as in the labor.
Yeah.
So it's the same with my car. The consumption is 5.5. I never drive 5.5. It's always 7. So it's in the perfect condition. But the perfect condition is influenced by the user, what he's doing with his watch in which way.
Okay, but what the situation, if I let my watches on the table during the night and I woke up in the morning, I will see that my watches are running 1 minute.
Yeah, that's too much, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, that's too much.
So have I right to send to the service center to...
No, you have to, because 1 minute per night, it's absolutely too much. When we talk about the tolerance should be maximum plus 6 seconds a day, but usually the watches work more precise than the chronometer certification. We talk about 2-3 seconds per day.
I have one question for you, Thomas. What do you think that some brands move this step much further in the way that they are not testing only the movement in the independent command, but they test wall watches? What do you think? That the Breitling doesn't think about this kind of test? That you mean that this is something closer to the real use? What do you think about this? Testing the wall watches, not only the
movement, you mean?
The movement separately. What do you mean about this?
For sure, an additional test, it's also a great benefit, but you have to know the chronometer certification is just allowed for Swiss watch brands. For example, if you have a German brand, they are not allowed to make the Swiss chronometer certificate.
Yes, I fully understand. For example, like Omega Master Chronometer, they are measuring the watches which are already tested by COSC.
COSC and then meters. Yeah, I know.
And I think that this is nice that you...
That's really the next step, but... you have to know that these big groups, we are independent company. We are not integrated in the big group like Richemont, Swatch Group or whatever. So we are a small brand.
Yes, and we need to keep in mind, because it is very interesting that everything costs so much money, or something like this. So we have to keep in mind that Breitling, according to sales campaign which make audit per year, it was Breitling moved to the first 10, is on 11.
No, we are on the position 8 in the ranking of turnover per year.
8?
Yes.
So you are doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you are.
You are very happy.
You are very happy because you are doing something right. That's the point. What I want to say. But I just want to ask you, what do you think that the in comparison between testing wall watch and just the movement? You know, because but I understand that is always about the money.
I think it's not the point of money; it's the point of technology. So for the big groups, it's easier to get the newest technology. I talk about silicon spring. Those big groups have the patent on, and we are an independent company, and we are not able to use this technology because we have no patent on it.
Okay.
Because it makes no sense for an independent company like Breitling to invest millions just for a silicon spring. We have not the money for this. For the big groups, it's easier because they share with all the brands in the group, and it makes more sense. But the patents are over, and it's a secret, but we will come with new technology very soon.
Really?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that the Breitling have no silicon spring inside the movement, but they are still able to keep the accuracy with COSC.
But there are different kind of ideas. There are some brands that still work with the steel hairspring.
Okay.
Another one with the silicon hairspring. Both have positive and negative things.
Okay.
So we are in between. The silicon spring is not the solution for everything.
Okay. Tell me something about
impact. When the watch drop down, impacts.
It's more fragile.
Yes. It's easier to break the silicon spring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, really.
Mm.
So, good to know. So the Breitling is preparing something in this way.
Yes, but you have to know that to implement the technology, the development of the silicon spring it takes years. It costs millions.
Yeah.
The production, it's easy. It's cheap.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper than a steel hairspring.
Yeah. Okay.
But the way to get this technology, to develop this technology, cost millions.
Okay.
But the production, at the end of the day, the production is cheaper than a steel hairspring.
That was also my question. When you are start from the beginning, you have a white blank of paper and you want to prepare new movement, that you need to find the best watchmaker in the business. Because when I was in chronometry, they told me that there is no so many watchmaker which are able to build the 1-4-6-4 movement, with 4-year calendar.
Yeah.
So they told me in Breitling that there is no so many watchmakers which are able to produce this movement.
No, that's the biggest problem in general for the Swiss watch industry. In general, to find a watchmaker, but you have to understand you have repair watchmaker for watches and you have production watchmakers. To find watchmaker for production is not easy and more complicated. This is the worst, is to produce high complicated watches with perpetual calendar, with leap year calendar, with the rattrapant, with the split second chronograph, all these things. And to find a watchmaker to produce this movement, this is there are just a few watchmakers.
So you are not able to just hire the new watchmaker on the street and you come here and you will set up the new perpetual calendar.
No, it takes years.
And tell me, from your point of view, what is the most interesting complication from your point of view, or hardest to produce, to develop, to bring to customer from your point of view? Or interesting?
For me, 3 interesting complications. Rattrapant.
Okay.
Because it's very rare. There are just a few brands that produce their own rattrapant with the integrated chronograph, not with the module.
Can you, Thomas, explain what the rattrapant means?
Rattrapant is French, it's a split-second chronograph. So you can measure different time.
You can measure two runners, for example.
For example, yeah. This sounds very easy, but it's very complicated to produce because you have 2 hands on one wheel.
Yeah.
And with your free hand, you don't see the hands.
Yes.
Just if you stop the chronograph, you see there.
The second one is continuing.
Yes. And you have a wheel and in the wheel. So this is very complicated, high precision. Second, which is useful and very interesting, is a perpetual calendar. And the last, it's I would say, the peak, tourbillon.
Tourbillon.
For sure. Tourbillon. And if you count which brand is able to produce with the in-house movement, a rattrapant, perpetual calendar or tourbillon, then you find out there are not so many brands are able to have this or to produce this function in a mechanical watch.
But Breitling already have a tourbillon.
Yeah.
Have a
rattrapant.
And also
a perpetual calendar.
Okay, but I think that we can continue to this watch because I'm watching this watch all the time on the tray, and I'm really happy that you bring this watch to our studio. So, can you explain what I'm holding in my hand right now?
Yes. First of all, there are different kind of perpetual calendar on the market.
Okay.
First of all, you have to know all perpetual calendar with the exact year on. You have to change some parts in the movement in the year 2100.
Yeah.
Because in 2100, there's no leap year.
Okay.
So you have every 4 years, you have one additional day.
Yes.
So in 2100, you have not an additional day. So the perpetual calendar have to adjust it in the factory in 2100.
You have to send your watch.
Yes, but it's far away.
Yeah, it's not our problem. Definitely not.
So this perpetual calendar is, from my point of view, very clever. Because usually if you have to adjust the perpetual calendar, normally you don't use the perpetual calendar every day.
Yeah.
It's not a daily watch.
But it should be, but it's not.
It's not.
Yes.
So if you put the watch on the tray after almost 3-4 days, the watch stops. Then you have to adjust the complete full calendar, which is with many brands very complicated. And if you make one mistake, for example, you are 1 year in advance and you cannot go back.
Yes. And you need to send into factory your watch.
Exactly.
It sometimes happens with IWC. Okay, I don't know. Okay, but it happened.
We know this, and for that reason, we create this perpetual calendar with additional push button here. Then you can adjust the date, you can adjust the month, you can adjust the leap year, separate, and it's easy to adjust. And even if you make a mistake, it's not a problem because
you make another circle.
Yes.
It's a primitive, it's a simple.
Yes, but
when I hold it in my hand, I understand that the develop. This is not a.
Yes. So this is the main really special thing of this perpetual calendar. You have to know you have on the dial altogether 11 hands.
Yeah. Yes. 11 hands. Yes.
So only if you count the hands, you see it's a mechanical movement. It's not a mobile phone, which is easy to have all the time the right data on. It's mechanical based, and this is really high autorology, high complicated in a mechanical watch. And this is a perpetual calendar with the chronograph, with the chronometer certification. So it's also very rare.
Yeah.
And we have here improved our technician in the movement. We have here 96 hours power reserve.
96, not 3 days.
More, 96 hours power reserve.
And we are still keep the height of the case something about 1.5.
Yes, we have one of the most convenient perpetual calendar on the market. If you see the thickness of the case, for a perpetual calendar, it's very flat.
And you can also see the in-house movement from Breitling.
Yes.
And this complication is built on the 01 basement.
Yes.
The step which Breitling made in 2009.
Exactly.
I like this watch. Honestly, I like this.
It's a pretty nice watch with a very nice dial. I love the color, but it's not only a nice, colorful, emotional Navitimer watch, it's also high complicated horology movement inside. And that's a very nice combination.
So this is the new Navitimer with perpetual calendar, which we don't have yet in our store. But as I've been in Watches and Wonders, they told me that we will in boutique that we will rescue this watch.
Wait a little bit because, as you know, not every watchmaker are able to produce this movement. So we are limited in our production. The watch in general is not limited, but we are limited in production. We cannot produce the quantities like a normal chronograph.
Yes. So then, do you have an idea how long it takes to build this movement?
The assembling, to be honest, is the easiest way. If you have all parts, everything to assemble is the easiest part. I would say in 4 or 5 hours you assemble the movement. That's not the problem. But all the parts before,
you need to produce,
to develop the perpetual calendar, to produce all the parts what you need. There are more than nearly 500 different parts in this movement. 500. Some parts are so small you cannot see with your eyes. So that's really a small universe.
And this piece is built in La Chaux-de-Fonds.
La Chaux-de-Fonds in our chronometry. Yeah.
Amazing. Čo hovoríš? Krásne, že?
We have a really nice feature which is not visible. The watch is in steel, but the bezel is in platinum.
In platinum, yes, because you have also Chronomat 40 GMT with this dial and all. You have also platinum.
This is understatement.
Yes.
This is understatement.
Really nice. Okay, Thomas, and you bring with you something which is Navitimer famous for.
Yeah.
Could you explain what this scale, because this is the pilot watch, as we know. Sometimes our customer complain on the waterproof, that is 30 meter, but someone says that if you drop to the water, you don't care about your waterproof because you are in plane cockpit. But okay, I'm not complaining about the waterproof because this is the watch which I won't wear with my suit, and I don't care about the waterproof. But can you explain what this scale
Yes.
means?
First of all, I want to tell you a nice, true history from the beginning of the Navitimer. The beginning of the Navitimer was that the Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association, AOPA. It's the biggest pilots association in the world. They had in the 50s around 40,000 members. Today they have 520,000 members, something like that. And the AOPA asked Breitling to create a watch where the pilots are able to make some calculation. You have to know, in the past, today, flying, you have the computer, they put everything in the computer, the plane flight very safe, but
Autopilot, you just sit.
Exactly.
Almost.
But flying was always to measure, to calculate the consumption, the weight, the wind, the height, the speed, the distance. Everything has to be calculated. And the pilots ask for, today we would say a smartwatch. A Navitimer is a smartwatch.
Exactly.
In the 50s, because you have the time, you can measure the time, and you have a calculation sliding rule. And the AOPA asked Breitling to create a watch where they are able to measure some calculations. So the basement of the calculation sliding rule, first of all, it looks very complicated.
Yeah, for me, for sure, definitely.
But in fact, it's not so complicated. It's very simple. The basement for this round sliding rule around the watch, the basement is this. Did you ever seen in your life this one?
Probably in school, maybe.
Ask your grandmother and your grandfather.
Yeah, I'm not too old.
This was the only tool to calculate in school.
Old calculator.
The system is 350 years old, this ruler. This is a calculation ruler. The system is 350 years old. And everybody has to work in school to learn with this.
Okay.
Till 1969. You know why 1969?
Calculator was invited.
The first calculator. And then you don't need it anymore. But to be honest, the mathematics guy, Marcel Robert, he created this sliding rule around the watch to make the most important calculation for pilots. Multiplication, division. You can divide static miles, nautic miles. This was the idea behind. And the first products, the first 1,500 pieces was delivered to the Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association, and they
as a private watch, not for sale. It was invented for a private purpose, or
just for pilots.
Just for pilots.
Just for pilots.
Not for sale.
And this organization sell the product to the pilot.
Yep.
For that reason, we have the logo on the Navitimer chronograph, the Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association logo.
Back to the roots.
Back to the roots, because this is the true history.
Yeah.
The only history of the Navitimer.
Yeah.
And then later on, Breitling find out there's a commercial request on this watch, and they start to produce the watch more commercial. But the first idea was to create an instrument for pilots. And this is the true story. And to be honest, this Navitimer is now more than 70 years on the market, in our production.
Still producing.
And it's very rare that you have a product more than 70 years still in production in this long term.
Yeah. Yes, I really like the layout of the dials, a moon phase on the 12th, and this sunburst on this light blue dial. Okay, but I don't want to spend more time on this because we have another novelties which we can move, because this piece is really nice, but we have something which is much more affordable.
Yes.
I think the watch is what I already have on my wrist. This watch we already have in our stores. And this is new Top Time 38. You also bring with you in this beautiful pouch.
Mm-hmm.
And on this model is something very special that you have first time bring 3 hands in-house movement.
Yes.
But you already have a manufacturer movement in Super Ocean Heritage. What's the difference?
In the Super Ocean Heritage, we have a cooperation with Túto.
Okay.
So in one product, we have basement Túto movement and the right time and the right step to create our own 3-hand movement. But first of all, I will start with why we start with the Top Time. Top Time, it's not a new product. Top Time have a great history in our collection, in our history. For example, did you know that Sean Connery used a Top Time in the second James Bond movie?
Yeah.
Thunderball.
Yes, I know.
So this is in the 60s. The history of the Top Time goes back in the 60s. And we have made a very nice newspaper, I would say a newspaper, with our new testimonial, Austin Butler. You know Austin Butler, he's the actor for the movie for
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley, exactly. But I want to use this newspaper specially, and I love it, really, old advertising from the 60s. So the 60s was a time of revolution. The 60s was a time of I show you here, of very colorful time, racing cars, racing motorcycles. So it was a time of revolution. And Willy Breitling found out that the Top Time is a watch exactly for this kind of new customers with new freedom in the head. And the Top Time, it's still in our collection. With the great history, we have also Top Time classic cars.
Yeah.
It's a homage to Chevrolet Corvette, Ford Mustang, to the muscle cars from the 60s. And we use this history to create a new watch. But it's not only a new watch, it's a new watch with a new movement. And we have again the same story. It's not easy to create a new movement. I will show you a picture where you see the new movement, the 3-hand movement with a lot of new technologies and new patents. Yes, the watch himself is, I would say,
I can borrow you mine with this extension on buckle. It's perfect.
It's a complete contrast to the Navitimer.
Absolutely.
It's reduced.
Yeah.
It's a simple looking case. It's not simple, but it's reduced case with the design from the 60s. It's very flat.
I like it.
We have here the loop for the date, which is very usable, special for me. You know, usually I need glasses to see the date. For me, it's a feature. I love it. Even the crown, the design of the crown goes back to the 60s, to the first Top Time. The bracelet, it's very soft, but what I really like is the self-adjustment of the bracelet, of the buckle, of the folding clasp, and for sure, I go to the back, to the sapphire crystal back to our in-house movement.
First time with 3 hands, you have a transparent sapphire crystal.
Yes, it's the watch. It's a nice watch, but for Breitling, for the future, it's the same story like the B01. So the basement is, we have made the decision to develop our own 3-hand movement. For sure, for the customer, it's not a big revolution, but for us, for our brand, it's the same like the B01. First, that you make the decision to produce your own movement. To develop a movement, a 3-hand movement, you can invest, I would say, between 4 and 5 million Swiss francs. to develop your own movement. And again, this movement is also created for future features, maybe GMT, maybe other functions. So it's integrated in the movement for future business. And why it's important to have your own three-hand movement. We are an independent company. We want, and that's really a big issue, to be independent in the future. We are not influenced from some mistakes on the market, from some changes on the market. We can control the quality, we control the production, we are more flexible in our production. We can adjust technical features. So it's really a milestone for a brand. And by the way, I would say a watch with the in-house movement developed by Breitling, the value is higher, especially for the future.
Yes, so we can expect that the additional complication to this movement, because it's built for the future, as you said, for next complication, like GMT or day or whatever.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. But from my point of view, why is this model game changer? Because I think that maybe you don't like it, but I will talk about the Rolex in this case, because you find the fine spot between the, let's say, if someone looking for a Datejust 36 or 41, I have an issue. 41 is for me too big. 36 is for me too small. This is the golden point between 38. But it's true. This is not that I want to promote something like that. But from my point of view, this is absolutely true, because you find the right spot, and this is 38 millimeter. The lugs are enough long. The watch fit very good on my wrist, for example. This is the sweet spot. I feel the true quality manufacturing process on this watch.
It's what passion also.
And
I want to add something. I don't know if you feel it or you have the feedback from your clients, from your customers. There's a trend to use more elegant watches, not so big watches, smaller watches, more flat watches.
Yeah, sure.
There's definitely a trend, and we are on the top with this product. The time for watches with 48, 50 millimeters is definitely over.
Yeah.
And also the watches with big watches with high complication is over. So the request from the market, we feel it. It's more like in our collection Premier, more elegant, more...
but still sporty abilities, like with this 100 waterproof case, and I can wear it on the yacht. I can wear it with the jacket.
Yes.
And I think that this is the biggest collection on the market which influence people, and people like this watch. And still, we are under 6,000.
Sure.
We are under 6,000 euro.
And absolutely. We are above 5,000. So the price range is...
yes, we are standing on 5,000 euro.
Yeah. And you will see, it's a secret, but you will find this movement later on in more and more watches in our collection.
Yes, this is really nice. And when I want to continue that we are less than 1 centimeter.
Yeah.
Which is something which I really adore on the watches.
And 78 hours power reserve. And so more than 3 days power reserve.
We have still 3 days power reserve. We have 100-meter waterproof, and also we have extension on the bracelet, as you said. That I'm not, when I grab these watches, I don't need to unlink the bracelet. I just set up on the folding glass.
Yeah.
And this is for me the absolutely right now one of the best value between the price and the additional value.
The idea behind this to talk with customers. They are younger, they are fresh. They have the money for sure, but they are fresh. That's why we have Austin Butler. This is a new generation of actor. And why we have an actor for like Austin Butler in our collection? Because the history.
Yeah.
As I told you, Sean Connery was testimonial for Breitling in the 60s. That's why we have Austin Butler in our product from the 60s. So you see, it's a line, and it's all about history. And if only a brand with a great history are able to talk about it. True histories.
Yeah. Thomas, this is the last novelties. What we can expect this year? Or we can expect something else?
We have 2 big launches this year. One is in June. That's all.
Okay, what you can say?
When I tell you more,
Okay.
they will kill me.
Okay.
No, we have 2 new launches, and for sure you will find this movement also in the launch of the new product.
Thomas, thank you very much for your time. I think that you say so many interesting information. Once again, thank you very much for your time that you come to our studio, and it was really nice that we have really nice talk.
Yes, because you asked the right questions.
Okay. I hope that this is not your last time in our studio, and sometimes when Breitling will launch something new, you will come to our studio and we can talk about like today.
Sure, and it was easy for me because we know each other so many years, and we are watch lover.
Since 2014.
We talk about the same level and the same, so it was easy for me. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope it was interesting for your follower.
Yeah, we hope so. Takže ďakujem veľmi pekne, dajte nám odber, dajte nám like, ak sa vám toto video páčilo, a vidíme sa pri ďalšej časti WDL BEZ CENZURY. Majte sa.